So, welcome back to another episode of the Half and Half Scarf Football Podcast with me, Nick, and my mate Dom. We didn't record an episode last week because I was on holiday, and the World Cup has well and truly kicked off. So, what we decided to talk about in episode 52 is the group stages part one. And I say part one because we've got two podcasts that we're going to release on simultaneous days around the group stages to keep them current. And my headline observation is we've had 72 games to lose probably the most obvious 16 teams, or at least most of those obvious 16 teams that we could have picked before a ball was kicked. Is it a waste of time, etc., etc.? I'm going to introduce my mate Dom, but as I do so, what I would like to say is this. I still love the World Cup. I love football. I love the World Cup. I love everything about kind of watching tournament football. But I'm telling you now, mate, 72 games to get rid of 16 teams, most of whom probably shouldn't have been there in the first instance on footballing merit. Shouldn't we just started with a round of 32 like we should have done
Yeah,
previously?
yeah, I'm with you. I love football, and I always look forward to the World Cup. But I have to say, this is the first one since I started watching the World Cup. When I've said before, the one I could really remember and sitting and falling in love with it was World Cup '82 when I was 9, and I've loved the World Cup since, and I always look forward to it. But this one, honestly, I think I just feel so apathetic towards it. I'm just
Mm.
not into it at all. And I know that'll change after today when it finally gets into the knockouts. But yeah, I know there's loads of arguments around, inclusivity, make it bigger, involve all the countries. But I always come back to the same thing, which is the World Cup is you have a qualifying, you have 2 years of qualifying. So if you really want to make it into the World Cup, your chances through qualifying. I think the World Cup spectacle over that 4 weeks is the elite. That's the elite end. That's when
Mm.
it's the business end. Having had done all the qualifying, it's not about just for me letting every single country turn up and have a kick of a ball. And that might sound harsh to people, but that's just how I feel. And I think that's come into how I've felt really distant from this World Cup, along with all the other things we've gone in about in the past, tickets, FIFA, Infantino, everything else. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's really spoiled my involvement so far. Plus the kickoff times, I have to say.
Yeah, no, they're not great at that. What I do like about Talksport, I've got a thing called a feature on the Hawksby Jacobs show called Creatures of the Night, and they invite somebody to do a short running commentary on the game that kicks off at like 3 in the morning. You know, Haiti versus bloody Curacao or somebody. You know, they didn't play each other, but you know what I mean. The sort of
Yeah,
Uzbekistan
I know what
versus
you.
DR Congo, and it's somebody's job is to stay up during the night. And one of the ones I listened to, and I've listened to this week because I've been away on holiday and I've had a chance to just catch up on BBC Sport. I've watched the 8 minute highlight package on BBC Sport of all the games in the 72 games. I mean, you know, I had not much else to do apart from read books on holiday. And I've enjoyed the 8 minute highlights. But the Creatures of the Night, they had to bring in a substitute for midweek. And the argument was we brought a late substitute was a young lady who was a Man United fan who'd done one the week before. And the reason she was brought in as a substitute because the guy who was supposed to do it fell asleep. That's brilliant, right? So let's get on to the football, okay? So I, I take issue with the fact that you just said that you'll probably get into it with the round of 32. Have you seen some of the fixtures? They're
I
absolutely
know,
shocking.
I
Some
know
of
they
those
are.
are shocking
Yeah, they are.
because there's still teams in here who should be nowhere near the competitive end of a World Cup, and that's not being elitist. It's just being realistic. So what I intend to do is I want to go through. There's 12 groups, obviously. So I want to take the teams who finish bottom of each of those groups and whether or not we could have predicted that before kickoff. Okay. And then we'll look at the four who didn't qualify. How shit do you have to be, by the way, to not qualify in third place when 8 of those people who finish in third, and we'll cover Scotland later, you know, 8 of those teams who finished third also got through.
Yeah.
So 72 games to get rid of 16 teams. I do want to caveat this and start off with the fact that um, there's a lot going on in the Middle East, a lot more than football, a lot more focus to get into. But the Middle East had 5 slots in this World Cup 48, and all five failed. All five Middle Eastern
Yeah,
teams. So why are they getting five slots at a World Cup if none of them can get through to a round of 32? And by contrast, 9 out of 10 African nations did qualify, albeit Senegal got through by the skin of the
yeah,
teeth on
skin of the
goal
teeth.
difference. Only Tunisia failed out of the 10 African nations. So that does say that African football is developing and being more competitive, that 9 out of 10 can get through, albeit some sneak through in third and whatever it
Yeah,
might be. But 5 out of 5 from the Middle East to fail miserably doesn't say a lot about Saudi football and its influence, does it? Or the Qatari World Cup and its legacy for me, mate. What do you reckon?
I would agree. It doesn't for me. But then they, I keep reading a lot on social media about how football is massively popular in the Middle East. It's huge, and so many people watch it. Well, yeah, that's fine. The populations in these countries are pretty big, and if they are watching it, they're not going to games. They're not really interested to a point of actually investing in the time to go at the games. And I think they're getting 5 spots because FIFA are just gravitating towards the Middle East because that's where the money is. I mean, the next World Cup is Spain, Portugal, Morocco. The one after that's already been given to Saudi Arabia,
Yeah,
and they they deliberately twisted this World Cup so that they have these 3 countries. And I think isn't there like some like going to be one-off games in Argentina and somewhere else, or is that the next
I
one?
don't know.
And that's
I don't
that's
know.
and that's solely to do with so it negates South America being able to bid for a World Cup. I mean, it might be in the next one. There's random games that's going to be in South America. Can't remember. I have read that somewhere. But all of that's been done in a way that literally it just gives it to Saudi Arabia because there's no one else bidding
Yeah.
for it. So no, I'm really not there yet with the Middle East countries and
No.
their investment and dedication to football. I just
Well,
I can't get past the fact that the whole thing is sports washing, and I
yeah.
can't move past it for me. It just I've got nothing against the players themselves, nothing against those who want to play, but just the way it's structured, governed,
They're,
and how
they're
it
not good
how it
enough.
operates. It's just not
Don't.
they're not good enough, and just them trying to bulldoze their way into football. It you know is it Qatar who own PSG? I've heard really bad things about the guy who runs PSG. He's just a
Yeah.
really controlling, domineering figure, and he's worryingly got his ear in an influence in FIFA quite heavily
Mm,
and UEFA. So yeah, none of that is good for the health of the
no.
game.
Okay. Well, very quickly, Turkey Al Sheikh, who's the guy who's into boxing in a big
Yeah,
way, rumoured to be interested in Derby County. Derby
yeah,
County, learn from your previous mistakes, folks. Learn from Mel Morris. Learn from your history. Do not get involved with Saudi sports washing. They will not do anything for you long term. Middle East football for me is light years away. It's like African football in the 90s. When Cameroon qualified for the
yeah,
quarter final against England, it was like a massive thing. And they've come a long, 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 long way. But let's look at the foot. I'm going to do it in groups of four,
yeah,
okay? Blocks of four. So Group A, Czech Republic finished bottom with 1 point. Now, my view on that, and we'll do four before I get your views on it. My
yeah,
view on Czech Republic is they're a spent force. They're an old team. They haven't done anything much for a while. They used to be, technically quite gifted and very strong. Got 1 point against a group with South Korea and South Africa in there. Mexico obviously won it with 3 home victories, and they look impressive, by the way. The Czech Republic went out bottom. Qatar, what a shock, went out bottom in Group B. Qatar, that well-known footballing nation who
yeah.
hosted a World Cup and went out in the group stages in their own World Cup, got a point and went out in Group B. Haiti, so shit they finished below Scotland. They finished bottom of Group C. Again, before a ball was kicked, you could have said that. They haven't played a home game for about 5 years because of the political turmoil and things, and nothing wrong with, Haiti as a country. Let them have we've talked about this before, let them have a World Cup B, with the teams like Haiti, Qatar, and people like that. But Haiti finished bottom of Group C. And Turkey, surprisingly, because they finished bottom of Group D, having beaten the USA in their last game. But the reality is, Turkey haven't turned up at the World Cup since 2002, so they're not the nation that you think they are. Despite the fact that Turkish football is quite big, obviously with regard to your Fenerbahçe's and your Galatasaray's of this world. But those first four: Czech Republic, Qatar, Haiti, Turkey. Probably Turkey versus Paraguay. You could probably thought maybe before a ball was kicked. I think any shocks there. Turkey probably just they're only getting 3 points. No shocks in the first four for me, really.
None for me. I would agree with your summation on Czech Republic, Czechia, as it's now known, isn't it? I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
um, yeah, they've not been on the mark for me for years. I wasn't expecting anything from them. They played how I thought they would. Um, Haiti, yeah, the same. Um, I was surprised at Turkey. It was funny because I think Turkey were slightly hyped before the tournament in terms of one of those teams that can always surprise you and do well.
yeah.
I think I don't know what went wrong, whether they just hit the ground running all wrong and just weren't prepared. The fact that they actually finally turned up in the last game, it's too late by then. So,
Yeah.
it's almost a bit like, my God, you're here. What on earth's going on? You need to be switched on from the first games. Tournament football, tournament football. You need to be there and at it. So
He
they've just
changed. He
blown it, haven't they?
changed. He changed three of his superstar players and dropped them for the last game. Canoglu and another player at the back and somebody else didn't play, and funnily enough, they won. So
Yeah,
whether there was some infighting or some politics or whatever, you never know what goes on behind the scenes, Erie. But again, probably predictable. And like I say, Qatar, we've touched on Middle East football. Qatar is
just
not a football nation at all.
non-entity. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just, and I don't mean this, but who cares? Seriously.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Next one, Group E, Curacao. Curacao, bless them, small nation, celebrating qualification, and that was their goal. We
Yeah,
qualified for the World Cup, right? And if I say to you they finished with a -8 goal difference of 1 point, and they had a player playing for them who couldn't get a game for Middlesbrough most of last season, okay?
yeah,
He was playing for Curacao. That's how bang average they are, and they were obviously going to finish bottom of Group E. Tunisia, I'm never sure with the Tunisia and the North African nations,
yeah.
technically gifted footballers. They finished with no points and -10. But they sacked Lamucci after one game,
I know.
didn't they? Which is like there's obviously some shit going on there. So, but
Clearly,
again,
yeah,
in a group it was Netherlands, Japan, Sweden, and Tunisia. I'd have probably chosen Tunisia before a ball was kicked to finish bottom of that group
yeah. I
personally.
would.
Group G, what a shock! New Zealand finished bottom. News that well-known footballing nation, New Zealand.
Yeah,
Although they have got a young lad who plays up front for them. His surname's Just, and he plays for Motherwell. And I'd like Middlesbrough to go out and sign him. He scored 3 goals, and he's been sensational on the wing for them. Surely Middlesbrough are a bigger pull than Motherwell. So if we can go and get him, I'd be happy. I think he's about
yeah.
24. And he looked okay. But New Zealand, you'd have backed them to finish bottom of that group, wouldn't you?
All
Before
day
a ball
long.
was kicked.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Um, I'm going to come to the third bottoms. There's a couple of third bottoms in a minute. Saudi Arabia finished bottom of Group H, 2 points. Again, just not turned up. Every time Saudi Arabia threaten, I think they beat Argentina in the first game in 20. Actually, last time, didn't it? 2022.
yeah.
And they're capable, aren't they, on the day? But I don't get it. They're just not a footballing nation for me. I'd have put them bottom of the league
Yeah.
before. Actually, no, I wouldn't. We'd have all put Cape Verde bottom, and Cape Verde qualified second. We'll come to Cape Verde
Oh,
shortly.
yeah. I think they're
But
worth a separate mention on their own, Cape Verde.
they
Yeah,
are. But Saudi Arabia is a footballing nation, not particularly. Another one, Middle East and Iraq finished bottom of Group I, 0 points, -11 goal difference. Jordan finished bottom of Group J, 0 points, -5 goal difference. Would you have not said before a ball was kicked, apart from Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia, Iraq? Iraq are in a group with Senegal, Norway, and France, always going to finish bottom. Jordan, it was a question of whether they would finish bottom or Algeria would finish bottom, but Algeria are technically better footballers. Jordan finished bottom. Uzbekistan finished bottom of their group with Colombia, Portugal, and DR Congo, which we'll come on to as a separate mention as well. But Uzbekistan were never going to trouble the scorers, I don't think.
No.
Neither were Panama in the England group. So I think out of those 12 teams who finished bottom, I think 10, if not 11, most people would have predicted before a ball was kicked.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's be honest. Let's say it as it is. The people from those countries won't say it, but does anyone really care?
No.
Truthfully, no, I don't. I go back to what I said before. The actual 4-week World Cup is the elite end of it. You've had your
Yeah.
2 years of qualifying. That's when it's the business end for me. And none of these countries, for me, quite frankly, deserve to be there. And none of them would have been there if it had been extended. So everyone
No.
keeps going, oh, yeah, it should be inclusive. You need to, everyone should be involved. No, they shouldn't. It's a
No.
World Cup knockout tournament. So does
Yeah.
that mean every single club should be in the Champions League? No, even though they're trying desperately to get more and more in.
Mm.
It's we've said before, mate, it's sport. It's about knockout football. It's about trying to be the best.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It
don't
dilutes
really
it dilutes the quality.
it dilutes
And
the quality, and you're not as invested, you're not as interested. And I know the argument will always, and we'll come on to it. Everyone will say, but yeah, if you don't do all this, you'll never have the Cape Verde moments. Well, fine.
that's one
it's
one moment
it's
out of
one
72
moment.
games.
It's one moment. Yeah.
Right. Let's get on to the bit that really galls me, right? So okay, let's assume they have a 48 team World Cup because they're never going to go back to 32 now, are they?
No,
They're
God,
never,
no.
because FIFA will be making coin out of it, and we all
Well, the
know.
worst thing is, mate, they want to increase it to 64.
Oh, let's not go there. I don't think this World Cup will allow anyone with any, I was going to say with any morals, but then we're talking about FIFA, aren't we? To look at 64 teams and say what the maths will be easier, but the reality of this is right. You can finish third, and 8 of those 12 teams who finish third still get to play in the knockout phase
Yeah.
of this. So he's the teams who finish third, right? And I'll go through those. Then we'll just talk about the principle of all this, right? Democratic Republic of Congo finished top of the mini group for the next best sort of third place. 4 points, goal difference of 1. Sweden qualified in third. Ghana qualified in third. Ecuador, and I'll come on to Ecuador versus Germany in a minute. Fantastic, by the way. Ecuador finished third. They got through. Bosnia sneaked through. Algeria sneaked through. Paraguay sneaked through. All of those 7 had 4 points. So you could argue the fact that they had a win and a draw. So
Yeah.
at least they've turned up and tried to win something.
Yeah.
Senegal had 1 win, but they sneaked through with 3 points, and they only sneaked through because they absolutely battered. I think it was Iraq on their last game.
Yeah.
So Senegal are pretty decent, footballing side normally, but they were in a really tough group. To be fair, when you look at Senegal, they had Norway and they had France in there, so they were always going to struggle. And it was all a question then how much could you beat Iraq by to qualify in third. So all those teams who won 1 and drew 1, or won 1 only and got 3 points out of 9 are still in the tournament. There's 8 teams there who are still in the tournament. Now, I'll talk about individual moments in a minute, but these four must be kicking themselves, because these are the 4 teams who finished third and still didn't go through in a tournament that's designed to almost say you have to be really shit not to progress.
Yeah.
Iran, 3 points, 0 goal difference. South Korea, big surprise for me.
Yeah.
3 points -1. Scotland, 3 points -3. Now, if you look at Senegal qualifying, Scotland were never going to qualify unless they absolutely battered Haiti. They'd have had to win 5 or 6-0 against Haiti to have a chance. Because I'll be honest with you as well, by the way, I'm going to back the Scots here. They're in a group with Brazil and with Morocco, and if you'd swap places with England would have had 3 points as well, and England would
I
have
think
struggled.
so. Yeah. Yeah.
So fair play to the Scots. They had the toughest group. You were never going to beat Brazil, and actually I think if you turned up and played against Morocco, you might have had a fighting chance of getting a draw from that. But you didn't turn up, and you deserved to go out because you didn't turn up. But you couldn't beat Haiti particularly well, and that came back and bit you in the arse because you needed 5 or 6 on the goal difference to catch up with, finishing above Senegal, for example. And then the other big surprise is Uruguay. So Uruguay and South Korea for me are the two that went out that I probably wouldn't have put money on going out before
I
the
wouldn't, to be
72
honest.
games.
I would.
But I'd have put money on Iran going out. And with all due respect, Scotland, I'd have put money on you going out as well because A, you never qualify from a group phase, and B, your group was tough. And it was only going to be a question of could you score enough goals against Haiti? And you don't score enough goals. So the simple fact was you're up against it. But I think if England had swapped places with you, I think you'd have gone through in England's group. I think you'd have probably, if you look at England's group, you'd have got something against Panama, and I think you'd have probably got something against, maybe a Ghana or a Croatia, enough to get 4 points. But it's all about the draw, isn't it? It's all about seeding. It's all about your qualification. It's all about your history. You
Yeah.
hadn't been in the World Cup for 20 years. So 26 years, 28 years, whatever. So you weren't going to be seeded very high. But we've played. I'll keep going back to it. We've played 72 games to get.
72 games just to get to this. And the other interesting point is like and this for me is where the more teams you have, the more you can get teams that sneak through the back door. Senegal go all tournament, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
they're playing. Is it Iraq
Iraq.
they played? It were just terrible. So they were bound to get a victory against Iraq. Then it's just how many goals you score. So it's almost like teams have always have managed to sneak through because they've played shit teams. It's like Portugal haven't been very good really, and then everyone's
No.
everyone's going on about Ronaldo's
Oh,
arrived. It's like you're
oh,
playing Uzbekistan for
hey,
fuck's sake. God's
don't.
sake, honestly.
Oh, see, I watched that game in the apartment on holiday, and the spaffing over bloody
I know.
Ronaldo
It's
was just like I'm
embarrassing.
going like you're playing Uzbekistan for Christ's sake, and my God, I've talked about milking it. The first game that Portugal played definitely showed that he shouldn't be anywhere near that
He
Portugal team.
shouldn't. But
They
it's
played,
almost like it's almost like an obligation. It's like he's got some kind of he's got a secret contract that he has to be in the team.
yeah,
Portugal need to move on from him because I actually think people will argue, well, he's not holding back because they won the European Championships. But if you see them most of the time, watch them most of the time, they play way better without him in the team.
yeah,
He controls everything. He wants to control everything, and it's not healthy. And
no,
I mean, Martinez as a manager's useless anyway, and he's
mm,
going after this tournament. But he just has no balls. He plays him all the time. Portugal have been a real disappointment, but yeah, like you said, all the spaffing, he's arrived. It's like, oh my God, fucking
it's
well done.
yeah.
You beat them from Uzbekistan.
Here's the other thing though. I When you watch Lionel Messi, Argentina play everything through Messi because he can make things happen.
Yeah,
Portugal play everything through Ronaldo, and he's just lost that yard of pace. He's
yeah,
lost he's lost that indestructibility.
yeah.
And I've always been Messi over Ronaldo as a player anyway, in
I
my
have.
view. More influential. But Ronaldo must be hating the fact that Messi's stats are just off the charts again, mustn't he? Really?
Yeah, and it's he's there for vanity. He just I'm not quite sure. I mean, to be honest, Messi still has some magic, even though he's playing in the MLS, which is such a shame.
Yeah,
Um, but when he puts an Argentina shirt on, it magic just happens.
yeah.
Um, they've got a favourable draw, by the way. If you see him, my God, it's almost like
Who've they
let's give
got?
Argentina the easiest route to the final that we possibly can. I
Who've they
wonder
got?
why, because Messi's in the team and FIFA want Messi in the final. I mean that's feels slightly conspiracist, but I don't trust FIFA as much as I can throw, to be honest.
Really? What a shock. I don't either, funnily enough, mate. Who've Argentina got? I'm just trying to look at who've
If
Argentina
you
got
look
in
at their
the.
draw on their side of the draw, they should
Oh,
sail through.
they're playing Cape Verde next, aren't they? And then
Yeah,
after Cape Verde, it's probably somebody, whatever. Anyway, England, we'll come to England shortly. But
just very quickly, mate, you made a really
Yeah,
good point as well before. I actually agree with you. I mean, in fairness to Scotland, they just should have given it a go. And I think that's the only thing that their fans will be frustrated about. They were too conservative,
yeah,
too nervous, too safe. And if
Yeah.
they just should have realised that they were up against it from day one anyway. They just should have gone for it,
Mm.
absolutely gone for it. I mean, I'm not saying straight away. I think in against teams like Morocco and Brazil, you need to bed in for a while, and they
Yeah.
didn't do either. And as soon as you've given away goals to those two, you're pretty much shot in the foot. But you make an interesting point that if England had been in that position and in that group, how would they have fared? And it's a difficult one because Morocco don't fear anyone, and
No.
the way we laboured for most of the game yesterday against Panama, the way we laboured against Ghana, I it's an interesting one. It's like, you can be critical of Scotland, but they were in a really hard group,
Yeah.
So yeah, they probably just should have been able to batter Haiti, but you can't predict anything, can you?
Here's the thing, though. Haiti went after Morocco, and they were 2-1 up at one point in the
Yeah,
Morocco game. So they proved that you could get at
you really
Morocco
gave them.
in.
They gave them. I mean, they lost 4-2, didn't they? But they
Yeah,
gave them
yeah,
a
yeah,
game. They
yeah.
gave them a
And
game.
if Scotland had done that, their fans would have been a lot happier. What I would say about Scotland is their fans have been sensational. They've been ambassadors for the country everywhere they go. But you don't get a trophy for being the best fans in the tournament, do you?
No,
And the Boston have taken to them and loved them. Miami weren't as welcoming because the police down there are not quite as friendly, apparently.
no,
But nonetheless, so you touched on a point I want to go back to though about the whole thing about Senegal having to batter Iraq, right? So this third place thing is flawed because those fighting for third place who were playing later on, because Scotland were in that qualifying group. They were, I think, the second out of the eight available places after they'd played their final group game. But every other team fighting for a third place, whether it's South Korea, Senegal, or whatever, knew exactly what was needed to push into that top eight. So teams like Scotland, who played earlier in an earlier group game, were there to be shot at. So I don't think that works well. I don't think that's particularly fair. If you're Senegal on the last qualifying group and the last qualifying game, you know that you need to score 4 goals to,
yeah,
to sneak the eighth place in that league table. But Scotland had been in there after their qualification because they'd played the game more than anybody else. I think it was second at the time. But then DR Congo come along, and then other teams come along, and South Korea come along, and they go, well, South Korea went out in the end, but they look at it and go, right, what do we need to do to sneak into those, the eight of the 12 third places? So it's not fair anyway. It's not
no, it's not.
transparent. It's not transparent. It's not. It's a bit East Germany, West Germany in 1974 for me, really. There was a game Australia versus somebody or other, and they both were happy with the draw because one of them goes through second, one of them goes through guaranteed third. So, like, okay, that's
And
not
that's
football.
what they always used to try and avoid, didn't they? And having these amount of teams and these amount of games, it leads to this issue for me. So you
Yeah,
do have this awkwardness of this ridiculous spectacle of the eight highest third place teams, and it's a nonsense. It should never get to that. It should, you know, what works is about a tournament like the World Cup is simplicity, and also, quite frankly, just moving through the games, but not having like 8 games a day of most of which nobody really cares about.
yeah,
So, but the simplicity and it works because it's fair, so that everyone knows where they stand. In the last games, they're all playing together, so no one really knows what they need to
yeah,
do. Whereas this has given teams an advantage because just the way it's worked out in terms of it's only the top eight, so you
yeah,
can't have them all not knowing what they need to do. It always worked better. You have your groups, top two go through. That's it. Tough.
yeah.
So the fact that also I think I'm not saying it does happen, but teams can almost be a little bit more complacent, thinking, "Oh, do you know what? We started off with a win. There's a good chance we'll get a third place spot here." And it's like, "Well, that's rubbish. That's not how it should be."
Well, let's look at two options there, right? So let's look at Germany. Germany, won the first two games, and then they turned up for the third game against Ecuador. Ecuador desperately needed a win, and if they got a win, they were going to qualify. Germany had already qualified; they were top of the group with 6 points. They were going to win the group anyway, and funny enough, Ecuador beat Germany 2-1. Don't get me wrong, it was a brilliant game of football,
Yeah,
that, by the way. It was a brilliant game of football, and Ecuador thoroughly deserved to win. And by the way, Manuel Neuer looks 40 now. He looks 40. He looks
yeah,
40. And I hope he stays looking 40 because I don't want the Germans to progress much further. But Ecuador, they were young, youthful, vigorous, in your face, diving into tackles. Germany just went, all right, doesn't really matter. We're already through, complete and utter apathy. So that was
yeah,
one of them. And then last night or the night before, Norway made 10 changes when they played France. I think that's criminal. So France had 6 points, Norway had 6 points, both guaranteed to go through first or second. Norway must have decided, well, France are better than us anyway, so we're probably not going to beat them. So what we'll do is we'll make 10 changes, including Haaland. He won't play. So you're resting players for the round of 32 on the basis of not taking your group stage seriously.
yeah,
Why
yeah.
couldn't a full strength Norway team give France a really good game? I was really looking forward to that game, and then I saw the 10 changes, and I thought France will batter them. And funny enough, France battered them. And then everyone's spaffing over bloody Dembele, who I think's overrated, by the way. But he scored three. He scored the same goal 3 times. He didn't score three. He scored the same goal 3 times. Cutting from the left, banged it in the
Yeah.
bottom corner. But he was playing against a second string Norway team. So, let's be realistic. Let's be, Ronaldo against Uzbekistan. Would he have scored against Norway's first 11? Maybe not. And why are Norway allowed to make 10 changes and treat the World Cup like it's a piece of shit Carabao Cup qualifying round level
Well,
one? It's just
exactly.
wrong.
And also, I mean, I haven't looked at it, like I said, in that in depth in terms of would it have affected anything, because quite frankly, I'm right at this present second, I don't care. But
Hang on,
um,
I'll stop you there. That's brilliant. That I'm not looking at any in-depth basis because I literally couldn't give
no,
a
couldn't
shit.
give a fuck. But um, you make another really good point, because what if Norway put a full strength team out and say got a draw or a win? Does that change who France play next? Does it all have an impact on where you finish and
It
who
does
you
if
play
they've
next?
won.
So,
Does if they've
so
won.
yeah, so so you're disrespecting the competition, and I've always been a big believer that I think in tournaments football you should be made to play your strongest team,
Mm,
and I don't think you should. And I think again, I'll say all of this luxury of we know where we've finished and everything else, it's kind of taken away. I mean, and that's something else that was good about the World Cup. Sometimes when you went into the last group game, there was quite a lot riding on the last group game because
yeah,
only the first two go up. So they did take it a lot more seriously. You were very rarely getting teams resting players, or you might swap a few out, but you wouldn't rest 10 players.
no,
And I think that's detracted from it, because I think you should be made to play your best players. You should be you should be. It should all be about you have to play your strongest team, and you have to go out there and try and clearly win the game. You can't just sit off and just dawdle around the pitch and not really worry about it, because you don't really care where you finish. So
yeah.
yeah, I think that there's lots of different things that have come into it that have just made it. And also for me, mate, even though I was feeling like this anyway, it's just dragged on and on to a point where you're just like, oh God, can the group games just be over at some point soon, please? I
Mm,
mean, they
yeah.
don't finish until today. 2.5 weeks into the tournament, the group phase doesn't finish until it's still playing group games today.
There's only no, they're finished now. They've only got
Oh, have they?
32.
Was it last
Yeah,
night into Sunday
but they've
morning?
only
That's
got
it. Yeah, yeah,
they've only got 32 games left. They've played 72. They've got 32 games left. Now, here's the thing. I've just looked at who plays who in the next round. So Norway have got Ivory Coast, which isn't an easy game, right? France have got Sweden. Now, you're not telling me Norway wouldn't have preferred to play Sweden, a team, local derby and all that kind of thing, but they've avoided that by just abdicating responsibility.
yeah.
And now they've got a tougher draw. And you know what? I quite like Norway as an underdog. I hope they get beat. I hope they get absolutely battered by Ivory Coast because they've disrespected the tournament by making 10 changes in the final group game. And you look at the some of these games here, by the way, mate. Honestly, you talked about I'm not really into it until now. Well, let's have a look at some of these games, see if these get you excited. Don't get me wrong, there's some decent ones. Brazil, Japan, I'm looking forward to. Netherlands, Morocco will be a good game. That's two
Yeah,
o'clock in the morning. I won't be a creature of the night watching that one.
yeah,
But France have got Sweden. Sweden bore me when they play football. Mexico Ecuador is quite a decent game, but
Yeah,
it's in the Azteca, but it's at 2 o'clock in the morning. By the way, if England beat DR Congo, we play Mexico next. If Mexico beat Ecuador in the Azteca, and they only lost twice in 84 games there.
yeah.
So that's Belgium, Senegal, Gordon Bennett. United States, Bosnia. Oh my God. Spain, Austria. Yeah, okay, I'll stay up for that one. Switzerland, Algeria, Australia, Egypt, and Argentina. You mentioned earlier they've got Cape Verde, haven't they? Which is, and then Colombia, Ghana. There's some really bang average games in there in the last
Yeah,
32. But I hope Norway get knocked out for the fact that they made 10 changes, and Ivory Coast will give them a game, won't they? And I think Norway might have given Sweden a good old battering because Sweden are
I
not
think they probably would
special.
have done. Sweden aren't that good a team. I mean, they got completely found out against the Netherlands.
Yeah,
I think didn't Sweden win the first game 5? And again, they were playing someone
yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
abject, and it was like,
yeah.
oh my god, Sweden have arrived. It's like, no, they haven't, and they
No,
didn't. They got battered. It's like it's just lazy, predictable journalism.
it is.
It's just like, for God's sake, seriously,
But
stop trying to
I,
make something spectacular out of it.
well, I thought you were a massive fan of Graham Potter, mate. I don't know if I've misread that somewhere. You're a big fan of Graham Potter.
No, no, apparently he's transformed and revolutionized the Sweden team. No, he hasn't.
But he
Just
hasn't.
he just hasn't.
No.
I mean, honest
He's,
to
he's a
God.
PE teacher, isn't he? Anyway, let's move on. In the scheme of things, out of all them 72 games, I've got a few little highlights, okay? Cape Verde. I've been to Cape Verde twice on holiday with the family. I love it. Nice place. People are lovely. Very small island nation. Well done to Cape Verde. So Cape Verde are probably the highlight of the
Yeah,
qualifying group stages. Ecuador, Germany, really enjoyed Germany getting a bloody nose, and really enjoyed
yeah.
Manuel Neuer, arrogant prick that he is, looking 40. So I enjoyed that. I didn't watch this and I haven't seen the highlights of this one yet. South Africa beating South Korea. South Korea, what you doing? South Africa are not a footballing nation. Now they've
South
got,
Africa, absolutely awful,
yeah, they're like a
awful.
Sunday league team. They just hoof it and chase it. They're athletic, and
Yeah,
but
just
my God, technically shite.
and South Korea, I actually had, uh, you know, you know, above average expectations for them.
Yeah, I
They're a
don't.
good footballing team. I was really shocked by that result because
Yeah,
watching South Africa, it is. I mean, the first game against Mexico, it was like watching a pub team. They were worse than a pub team.
they were shocking,
They
weren't
were
they? That, God, it's a
terrible.
long time back. That seems now, but
It
Mexico were
was,
just
mate. It
like,
was a couple of years ago. It's taken that long to
it's,
get through.
yeah, well, it felt like it. I've got Uruguay out, but Bielsa apparently has said that there's a lot of toxicity in Uruguayan football. Most of it caused by himself. That's what his interview said.
Really?
He's a strange one, isn't he,
Yeah,
Bielsa?
that's a very weird statement to make. Doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense, that does it? Really?
Well, it makes sense to say that, I'll take all the blame, all this toxicity, it's all down to me.
Yeah.
I was surprised Uruguay. I mean, Uruguay for a nation, how big the population of Uruguay is. I might have asked you this
I
before.
think it's
How
about
big?
3 million, isn't it?
Less 2.2 million,
Two
right?
points. Wow.
So it's the size of like Cardiff and Swansea put together or something like that. I don't know. I've just made that up. But they overproduce every time, don't they? But
Yeah,
they
they
haven't
do.
this time. That's the second time they've gone out in the group stage in a row. And then Senegal, my low light is, they've sneaked the last of the eight third place places by being piss poor. Before we get on to some observations on the football side of it, because we've got a bit of time to do that, I'm going to put this out there now. France are winning this World Cup by a country mile.
You think?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They look really good. I mean, just
Oh,
as soon as they
Mexico.
as soon as they get the ball in midfield, they're just electric. I mean, they're just frighteningly good. They're just so organized. I mean, that first half in the first game, um, and again, it scares me who they were playing, but they were really struggling. And then second half, it all just clicked together. And
Was it
they were
Senegal? They were poor, weren't
was
they?
it
In that
Senegal? It
first,
might have been Senegal. Yeah, I think
might
yeah,
have
it
been
was
Senegal. Yeah,
Senegal. You're right,
yeah,
it
yeah.
was Senegal. But they were just frighteningly good. I mean, I think the thing with France that makes them dangerous is they just don't have to be on it all the time.
No.
as long as they're switched on, they know what everyone's doing and what they're supposed to be doing, and they don't, it's very rare you see them play like they did in that first half of that first game. They can just they are just they know they can just put 4 or 5 good moments together and they can win a
Mm.
football match, and that's how
Yeah.
deadly they are. And I can't really see, say for example, we came up against them. I just don't see how we break them down. They're just devastatingly good.
We can't play um, France, Spain, or Germany until the final. If we were going
If we
nowhere
get
near.
them,
By the way, we're going nowhere near the final. But we can't play any of those, Spain, Germany, or France until the final. So
yeah,
they're going to fight it out amongst themselves. And I think there'll be an interesting mix of styles if Spain play France in the semi-final, for example, or
yeah,
quarter-final. Um, on our side of the draw, we've obviously got Brazil, we've got Argentina. You know, we ain't getting through games like that with the defence that we've got and the shoddiness of our performances. Although there is an argument that says, I mean, we are both Borough fans, right? And I went to every home game and 90% of away games last season, and I've watched those England performances, particularly that Ghana game. I've seen that game at the Riverside and away from home a million times last season. Literally, everyone used to come to the Riverside, sit 10 behind the ball. We couldn't break him down. And, luckily against Ghana, we didn't get hit on the break, but by God, we were lucky because that was a definite penalty, by the
I
way. It
think
was an
it
absolute
was.
definite
Yeah, we
penalty.
were lucky in that game.
So we sat there and couldn't break teams down. But ironically, there is an argument that says that Thomas Tuchel's England will play better against more expansive sides because that'll create the space for the likes of your Bellinghams and your likes of your what's his face who plays for Villa who came on last he played last night
Morgan
whatever
Rogers, yeah,
Morgan
Morgan
Rogers and
Rogers.
people like that a bit more expansive. I was delighted to see that I've got to have a mental block. Marcus Rashford started last night because Anthony Gordon, Jesus Christ, how abjectly shit has he been for England the
Do you
first
know
two
what?
games?
He's always poor in an England shirt. He doesn't do anything. He just doesn't do anything. He
No.
gets he literally gets whoever he plays against. They're in that player's pocket. He's in that player's pocket the entire game.
Well,
He doesn't do
That
anything.
Ghana, that Ghana fullback, he might have had pipe and slippers on, mightn't he, against him? He was never made. I'm not a massive Rashford fan, by the way, but at least he's direct, and at least
I'm
he
not.
came on
Yeah,
and
I'll give him that. I'm not a huge Marcus Rashford fan. I mean, for lots of different reasons. I think his footballing attitude absolutely stinks, to be honest.
yeah,
But um, I'll give him that. If he gets the ball in the right areas, he's
yeah,
devastatingly quick. He's got a really powerful shot on him, and
yeah,
that goal he scored against Croatia was the perfect example of how effective he can be.
yeah,
I think you've got a good point there because Croatia gave us space to play because they don't
yeah,
really sit 10 behind because the Croatia have always got one eye on going forward themselves. That's just how they play, you
yeah.
know. I'm glad they've gone through, by the way, as well. I like
Really?
Croatia. Yeah, I just, I just, I just quite like the fact that even though they're not the team they were, and they've got fading, aging players, I just quite like the fact that I like having teams in there that always make you think and think, oh, do you know what? We can't be too complacent against these. And
They're a
Croatia,
bit they're a bit Sweden. They're a bit Belgium, bit Sweden for
they
me.
are a bit, they are, but
Belgium leave me cold. Sweden leave me cold. I'm looking at who Croatia have got. Oh, they've got Portugal. They're capable of beating Portugal, aren't
that's
they?
what I mean. I quite like the fact that what I like about them is they're a little bit unpredictable. So where everyone's looking at them thinking, oh, Portugal will beat these, it's like, oh, that's not
No,
set in stone. I think Portugal aren't. People keep raving about that Portugal will do well. They won't. They
no.
just won't.
And by the way, you can almost guarantee that Ronaldo is not likely to score against Croatia as much as he was against
No,
Uzbekistan.
no, yeah. I mean, oh, yeah, well done, Ronaldo. So amazing. Everyone keeps going about his stats. It's like, well, of course, these players are going to hit these numbers. They've played in about 20 World Cups.
Yeah,
They're both about 54 years old each. So it's like, what I just, yeah. But looking at it, I agree with you. France are something else. And
mm.
I, we've said it on multiple pods going back months. I don't really fancy England at all.
No, I don't.
I just don't see how it works. I don't get excited about it. I love the way we played against Croatia that second half.
Yeah.
We'd have to play like that. Like you said, against a team that doesn't sit 10 behind the ball. And if we do play like that and have a bit of confidence, I think we've always got a chance. But it's just the other end, mate, isn't it? As soon as teams catch us, it's the other end that worries me.
I'm looking at Desiree Doué, Dembele, Mbappe, Barcola. There's another one I'm missing, obvious from there from France, and you're looking and going,
There's just too many.
we score one, they'll score two. We score two, they'll score three.
Right, I mean,
And
Michael Elise as well. I
oh,
mean,
that's
just
there's the one. That's the obvious one. Crazy, and he hasn't even, bless him, he hasn't really turned up so
doesn't
far
really
in
set on
terms of
fire. And I just
no,
don't think I think if we ever play any of these teams and they get a couple of goals ahead, I just think that's game over for us. I don't really
yeah.
see us getting back into it and making a real fist of it, to be honest. I'm not trying to be negative. It's just
Yeah.
I,
I fear. I mean, DR Congo. I fear for the fact it's going to be a shocking game to watch, and they'll play for penalties from the first minute, or
yeah,
to hit us on the break. It'd be like Ghana again, won't it? 10 behind the ball. And by the
yeah.
way, they're every right and entitlement to do that because that's the only way they think they're probably going to get through against England. If
And
they
that's
actually play,
and yes, I agree, mate. And again, that also links to in a tournament of 32, would DR Congo be there? Not in a million years.
no,
But the fact that they are there and they're in the round of 32, they are absolutely going to play like that. They're going to do whatever they need to do to
yeah,
frustrate the hell out of us, make it difficult, make it choppy, get
yeah,
on the players' nerves. And yeah, they'll absolutely want to take it right to the wire. And
yeah,
why wouldn't they? That gives them a last 16 game.
yeah. But
So of
if we
course they're
if
going
we
to do
get
that.
through, if we get through, and we've got Mexico in the Azteca. I'm telling you now, mate, that's as tough as it gets. That is as tough as it gets in the
It
Aztec.
is. I mean, before you said it, someone else quoted that. I think it's actually one of the commentators in the first game, and they said they've only lost twice there. I mean, how ridiculous a stat is that?
Yeah,
80 odd games they've lost twice. It
yeah.
doesn't bode well for us because you know. I know me and you are not trying to sound negative, but are England likely to be one of the teams that break that lost twice? That I just don't feel it really.
They'll have played some really good sides in that 84 games as well,
Yeah,
won't they?
yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know who the two who beat them are. I'll be honest, I might have
I
to look that
don't
up.
have to have
But
a
yeah,
look.
yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, going to the Aztec, and by the way, it's at altitude and it's at heat. So every disadvantage for England. And you know what? There'll be a lot of Scots fans who'll be supporting Mexico. There'll be a lot of Scots fans suddenly looking to buy DR Congo shirts this week, won't there? And
yeah.
flags outside the house because they now support anyone but England, don't they, when they're invariably knocked out in group stages. And Steve Clarke resigned this morning. Did you see that from
Yeah, I did.
Scotland? Yeah.
Yeah,
They've just given him a 6-year contract, haven't they? Something like that. And
I
he's
think it was
resigned.
it was 4 years. It was through to the next World Cup, but which I always find really strange because there's I don't know. I look at something like that and think, okay, you must have thought it might go this way, even though you
Yeah.
could have played a bit more expansively, and that probably is on him, to be fair. Um, but you either know you're going to carry on or you don't, and I don't really
Yeah.
see how he's done an amazing job to get them there and get them into three major tournaments. So why suddenly give up? I don't really see who the next successor is who's banging on the door and who's going to
No.
suddenly change things. It's not for me. It's not really about the manager for the Scottish national team. It's the whole structure behind it. It's not. I think he's done an amazing job, and they're in a really good place. But they still need to. There's a lot that still needs to change. I think for Scotland, and
They haven't got the quality to have the in depth like
no,
they had in the 80s. When you talk about every Premier League team had two or three Scots. Not Premier Leagues. It was their Division One,
First Division and stuff. But
First
yeah,
Division.
but even then, didn't you? You look at the Scottish teams of the 70s and 80s, the astonishing talent they had, and they still struggled in major tournaments.
Yeah, yeah,
And
they
they
did.
and they were producing some of the best players in the world.
Yeah,
And all the. So, I mean, back in the 80s, half the best players in the first division were coming down from
yeah, they were.
Celtic and Rangers and other teams. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, there we go. Anyway, right. I was going to go into some on field stuff, but we'll do that in the next episode. So, for those who are watching this, we've got a special treat for you. Releasing 2 episodes on consecutive days. This has been our observations on what a waste of time 72 games of predictable outcome football have been, with the odd exception. You know, your Cape Verde's, your South Koreas and Uruguay going out, Ecuador beating Germany. Is that enough in 72 games to keep you interested? Probably not. If I wasn't a football nut, and I hadn't been on holiday, by the way, so I had nothing else to distract me, I don't think I'd have watched every 8 minute highlight of every 72 games. That's, a lot of hours of my life I'll never get back. But I was doing it to enjoy it and also for research for the pod. Um, we're never going to go back to a 32 team
Sadly
World
not.
Cup.
Even though that is the best format. You know,
Well,
people
the
forget it
math, the
used to be less than
maths
that.
the
Yeah.
maths suggests 64 divides quite well into 32. But what does that mean? How many is it going to be? How many groups are we going to have? Is it
Endless
and
groups.
how many can you qualify if you finish bottom, if you're the least shit bottom team? And
Yeah.
it's just going to be ridiculous. It used to be 24 and it
Used
actually used to be 16.
Yeah, I was going to say people of I'm 53 now. I remember when it was 24, and it was, I think it was actually increased to 24 for Spain 82. Prior to that, it was 16 teams.
I
So it's
remember
only
it
been the
being
last
16,
42
mate.
years. It's been 24 upwards, and even with 24, it worked well. But I agreed with the increase to 32. I think 32 worked really well.
Numbers wise,
16 team,
numbers wise, it's your top two go through. You got a round of 16,
yeah,
then you got your quarterfinals, your
yeah,
semi-finals, and it
yeah.
keeps it tight, it keeps it interesting, it keeps it honest, it stops your Norway's changing 10 men, it stops Senegal knowing that they need to bang in another couple of goals to sneak the best third place. The whole thing's flawed.
And if you go into 64 teams, what's the point in having 2 years worth of qualifying? Seriously, what are we doing all these qualifying matches and qualifying rounds for if
Draw them
that's
out
how
of a
it's going
hat.
to
Just
be?
draw them out of a hat. Just say, "Well, Saudi gone. Yeah, you got a bit of money. We'll get you in there. We've got 5 slots for the Middle East. Let's make it 10 slots for the Middle East, and all 10 of you are going to be shit. Um, it's just
And
pointless.
it is, and like you said before, you'd like to think there'll always be an unexpected highlight. Cape Verde have been it. It's
One,
been great. It's been great to see them do so well. They've taken the bull by the horns. They've probably had the advantage of being a bit of a surprise package that everyone was underestimating.
yeah,
They have actually done what the likes of Scotland and all the rest of them should have done, just absolutely gone for it. And I'm really pleased for them. But I go back to what I said right at the beginning of the pod. It's like, is it does that justify having a 48 team
no.
or 64 team tournament? Absolutely not. No
The
way.
other, the other thing I'd say about those who know football and research things properly is that Cape Verde actually qualified by beating the likes of Cameroon, who are a powerhouse in African football. So
Yeah,
there were no mugs to start with.
yeah,
It was like, oh, they're small nation, so they must be shit. Well, they're not shit. In the African 10 African teams who qualified, Cape Verde were in the top 6 of those 10.
yeah.
So, quite rightly, they've gone through as one of the 9. So that's enough about us moaning about the fact that we've hated the 72 games. We haven't hated it, but it's just been, oh, can we get on with some proper football, please? And you know
It's
what?
been a bit. It has been a bit turgid, and
Yeah,
and you can dress it up and have all the punditry you like and all the commentary and gloss over as much as you want. It's been pretty boring, and you
yeah.
don't need to listen to endless pundits going on and on and on and on
We'll
about
cover
it.
that. We'll cover that in episode
Yeah,
53, mate. Don't worry about
yeah.
that. So, listen, that has been our take on the footballing side of the World Cup 26 group stages. 72 games to lose, the obvious 16. Certainly, I would say 13 or 14 of them we probably could have chosen before we kicked the ball. And that doesn't make it a good thing, does it, really? Okay, so this has been brought to you in connection with our friends at Huddle Up, Adam Franklin and Connor Botterill. Huddle Up are doing some great work with EFL Championship and National League teams. They want some more help with anyone who's got access to commercial people, supporter groups, fan liaison, etc. They're providing mental health, mental well-being, and the sort of support for supporters working in tandem with the clubs. They're doing some great work, but they need your help. So if you are involved in anything to do with club liaison or fan outreach or commercials, then please get in touch with Adam and Connor. Don't forget, we've got our daily World Cup quiz, which is a World Cup quiz based around Italia 90 right up to the present day. It's in our exclusive LinkedIn group, the Half and Half Scarf Football Podcast. So if you're a LinkedIn member, you don't have to be a member of the group to participate in the quiz. We're already up to question 19. There's one every day. Dom, you reckon the two are, don't you?
Yeah, I'm really struggling with it, mate, to be honest. It's you're a tough taskmaster, I'll put it that way. So yeah,
I'll,
I'm not doing well on it, I have to say.
I'll be honest with you, it's more mastermind than tipping
It
point. So,
is,
yeah,
yes.
I think so. Deliberately, to be fair. So, if you want to test your knowledge, every quiz question for the first 19 days is in there. 20 days by the time this goes out on Monday. Have a look, see what you think, see what how good your knowledge is. And last but not least, episode 53 will be coming out tomorrow, the day after this 52. We're going to do two in a row because it's also more observations on World Cup 26 group stages, which is more the on-field and off-field stuff that we are going to talk about rather than just the principles of the whole thing being a complete waste of time. There's been some really interesting football stuff to discuss and observe and think about. So we're going to bring that out as a special, and that puts a line on the group phase. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share on all your favourite podcast platforms, and check out Huddle Up, as I've mentioned earlier. And then we'll see you on the next episode, which is going to be out tomorrow. So thank you for being a fan of the Half and Half Scarf Football Podcast. Dom, thanks as ever, mate. Always a pleasure. And we'll catch up with you on the next one.
And you, mate, yeah, looking forward to it. Enjoyed that one. See you, mate.
Cheers, mate.